Well, no parent wants to receive the phone call their child isn't coming home from a music festival. Sadly, 2 families got that call days ago, reigniting the debate over pill testing. But in the nation's capital, they're taking a far bigger step. It will no longer be a crime to possess hard drugs like cocaine and ice. It's controversial. You decide if it's a good idea.
I'm 55. I've used drugs from the age of 13. Started heroin probably at 14.
If anyone knows about hard, illegal drugs, it's Steve.
Lots of trauma from childhood, which led me to use such hard drugs.
He spent more than a decade in jail, and Steve says even on the inside, he couldn't escape them.
I watched a lot of people on minor drug charges come to prison, and then they just start using heroin. You know what I mean? Like there's just drugs everywhere.
So you'd get drugs in jail?
In Queensland prison, I knew no one. Within half an hour, I was having a shot. And I'm thinking, what this punishment? You know what I mean? Like, crazy, man.
Steve says he's overcome addiction, but admits he still uses occasionally.
Once a month, once every couple of months, I'll have a shot of heroin.
Why do you have the shot of heroin?
Probably boredom, loneliness sometimes, you know.
We've been waging a war on drugs for as long as people have been hungry for a quick high. People are still using and too many are dying. The ACT government says we're not winning the battle and the problem is the law. So from the end of October, it will no longer be a crime to possess hard, illicit drugs in the nation's capital. So on the list, you can have 1.5 grams of cocaine. How much is that?
Cocaine, well, I'd probably use that in one night because it doesn't last long.
1.5 grams of ice.
Yeah. It's a lot of meth.
Street value?
So 10 points in a gram, 50 points a gram, 5 fives, 25, $750.
1 gram of heroin, how long will that last you?
The average person that I know, that'd be a couple of days.
And how much is that worth?
It's about, I'd say 500.
It's a first-hand insight into the amount of drugs you will be able to carry without committing any crime in the ACT.
There's no safe way to take drugs.
From October 28, if you're caught by ACT police in possession of these drugs, you'll be given a simple drug offence notice. The choice of a $100 fine or be deferred to an illicit drug diversion program.
43% of people over the age of 14 have used drugs in their lifetime, and that's with drugs being illegal.
Chris Goff spends his days advocating for drug users in the ACT. He's been a passionate voice in the Territory's decision to decriminalise drug possession.
Just like the rest of Australia, the overdose deaths in the ACT have climbed above the road toll since about 2016.
The threat of breaking the law, what role do you think that has played in those statistics?
I think that stigma around drug use and the discrimination around drug use really does play into the picture of overdose in the ACT in this country.
What we are doing now does not work to reduce harm in our community. We have to try something new.
The ACT's Labor government has been in power for more than 20 years, since 2016 in coalition with the Greens. Health Minister Rachel Stephen-Smith.
How do you make the public feel safe by decriminalising some of the hardest drugs?
The use of illicit drugs is not safe. We don't condone it, we don't encourage it, and in fact, it is still illegal. This is simply reducing the penalty associated with the possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use so that people are treated with a health response rather than a criminal one.
This is where a client would...
If there is any sign of a shift in people's mindset, it's inside this lab in the heart of Canberra, where you can have substances tested before taking them.
Wherein the criminal penalties reduce the likelihood of someone's employment or education, their housing, their finances. So in that, the penalties are actually more dangerous than the drugs themselves.
Stephanie Stevens runs CanTest. She demonstrates how they uncover potentially deadly drugs.
Are you prepared for an influx of people once this legislation comes into effect?
Look, we don't imagine that we'll be flooded the second that decriminalisation happens, but we are in high demand, so we'll see how we go.
ACT police are also bracing for what's to come, making it clear they're nervous.
I think it would be really naive to think that people aren't going to come to Canberra and try something different.
I mean, shouldn't the message just be to our kids, don't do drugs in the first place?
Well, it's still illegal. And that will be a very clear message that we are sending to the broader community. It is not legal to possess these illicit drugs.
Well, that's the risk. Aren't you going to be tempted because you know if I get caught, I'm actually not going to get in a lot of trouble?
Well, it's not legal to use illicit drugs in the ACT.
So the message needs to be really strong, and around the dinner tables particularly. Drugs are dangerous, don't take them.
One father who wishes he'd had that dinner table chat is Tony Wood.
Please don't use drugs or you could finish up here and your parents will be brokenhearted.
It's almost 30 years since his daughter Anna died after taking an ecstasy tablet.
When you first heard about the decriminalisation of drugs in the ACT, what did you think?
I was shocked. I mean, the only weapon we've got against drug use is the law. If you think you can take drugs safely, well, you got rocks in your head.
The drug reform has been tested in places like Portugal and Norway. Whether it's working is sparking debate around the world.
We need to have the conversation because pretending it's not happening doesn't make it go away and the risks remain.
All eyes are going to be on the ACT. Will you get it right?
We need to be realistic and pragmatic, look at society. So how you been? And make sure that we are letting people do what they want in as safe a way as is humanly possible.
I could have looked into what problems I was having, why I was doing it to myself, and gotten help quicker. All it takes is a conversation with the right person and it could change everything.